Hey everybody, and welcome to the PlantStock channel. My name is Jesse if we haven't met yet, and on this channel, as many of you know, we try to focus on plant-based companies and stocks like TTCF. Now it's been, I think, a little over 1.5 weeks since I talked about the company last, so I felt it was about due. Now, the funny thing is, yesterday evening, I was looking at the news again, and then I realized, wow, I've forgotten about the TTCF conference at Cowen's. And then I was like, whoa, no one else seems to be talking about it. So I was listening a little to the conference call yesterday, preparing for making a video today. And obviously, in the evening yesterday, then my brother beat me to it, Emmanuel at Emmanuel Finance, the contrarian investor. And that's great. He did a great job as always, covering what they talked about. And I might be talking about some similar things, but I might actually also have some other gems that might be of value to you. So also, I got some great information on Tuesday from a man, again, from Denmark, Lascaro, who sent me, thank you, Lascaro, who sent me the investor presentation that's been updated now in September. And folks, before we get into this, as always, I would truly appreciate an early thumbs up to help spread the video to a lot more people out there. Get that algorithm working for us, right? And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet and you are interested in TTCF, it's a company I talk a lot about on this channel, or other plant-based companies like Beyond Meat, a very good food company, Oatly, Else Nutrition, to name a few. Make sure to subscribe and don't forget that bell button. Thank you, folks. Truly appreciate your help. And it looks quite nice. We've been waiting for this for quite some time. Not sure. Now we can see the leadership team. We don't have Chuck Cargill here anymore. And looking very nice. And good news here, as you probably knew, is that we have 73 SKUs now in total for 2021. It was 35 new ones that came out now. Sam Galletti talked about this on the Cowen conference call here. I'm not sure if you've seen it so far. We have Stephanie, we have this legendary CEO here, Sam Galletti, and we have his daughter, Sarah Galletti. I haven't seen her before being part of this. I mean, I've seen her, or I've listened to her on conference calls, obviously the Q1, Q2, and so forth, but haven't seen her be part of these ones. And then we have Matt here, also Chief Growth Officer. So if you haven't seen it, take a look. We're going to listen to a little clip regarding their healthy snacks. So stay tuned for that, and we'll talk about that. But again, really like the look here. It's not that different, but it is very attractive too. Here talking about their vertically integrated business. We're going to talk about that in a video soon, so stay tuned for that. And then we come into this massive opportunity, and that's what I wanted to talk about today a little when it comes to their TAM possibilities. Now, obviously, there was a lot of information that we as investors have heard about before, and I think it's good to be reminded of it. So still take a look at this conference call. But what I actually started to focus on more here was when they talked about the snack possibilities, right? Because my memory, if it serves me, I remember them talking about healthy snacks. We know that's something they're supposed to be doing soon. I remember Sam Galletti, I think it was in the Q1 report in May, when he actually said that he could see them being able to produce healthy snacks from the new facility, the New Mexico facility, I think either by the Q4 or at least in the beginning of Q1. It could be me who's mistaken, but I kind of have a memory of that. I remember them talking about that. And yeah, I actually had to take a look at my notes here. It was actually from the Jefferies conference back in June, where they talked about, and I do believe it was the CEO mentioning that they're going to start producing either in Q4 in the Carson facility or Q1. But Now, when Matt actually talked about it, I didn't get that impression at all. I didn't get the impression that they're ready to do that. I'll let you be the judge of that. I'm going to play the clip for you.
And then, Matt, you also mentioned salty snacks. So, not sure how much you can share. So, but I'll give it a whirl. What can you tell us about that category? How does Tattoo Chef play that?
I'm not sure it's not what we're actually out selling today. If you think about the acquisition that we just made, because we're still obviously finalizing kind of what we're doing there, and Sarah is not really in a position to kind of launch that yet. And there's still some work to be done to prepare for that launch. But we're very bullish on the fact that, I think that going back to what Sam said, I'd like to kind of bolt onto that a little bit. We have a right to play in the Mexican food space. Sarah has created some products that are obviously some of our top sellers that are Mexican inspired concepts. So, our plant-based burrito bowl, which we just launched recently, is now our number 2 selling SKU that we have in our frozen entree line. It's actually one of the top selling SKUs at Target, and is recently launched at places like Kroger and is coming on at Publix. So the Tattoo Chef consumer is looking for Sarah to create great tasting Mexican inspired dishes with a plant-based twist. And so we think that acquisition is going to allow us to now extend into other categories that support that flavor profile. So that's kind of what we're immediately selling. We're already out kind of talking to retailers about that right now. And then when we're in a position to more broadly talk about the snack food space, I'm sure we'll be really excited to do that. But for right now, it's really focused on really getting that frozen business kind of up and running and going after those doors.
Fair enough.
Yeah, so that is fair enough, of course. But again, it's not what we heard just two and a half months ago, right? Back in June. So that was a bit surprising to me, because it did seem that Sam Galletti was really, positive about that the Carson facility was going to start producing these healthy snacks soon, like I said, in Q4 or in the beginning of the year. So why it seems that they've changed their minds so far, I don't know. Maybe it has to do with production delays, and it's taking a lot more of the business now to just keep focusing on the frozen section. I'm not saying they should stop doing that, because that's their specialty, right? But it was a bit surprising why he didn't want to go into those details more and explain why they're waiting for it, because that's me. I just felt we didn't really get an answer to that. But still very positive that they are talking about how well they're doing with the Mexican products that they have. And that they've mentioned also that about their plant-based burrito ball that came out not that long ago is their actually second best selling item, which is perfect then that they've gotten the New Mexico facilities, right? Because it's going to focus on those kinds of flavors. So probably, they're going to do really well with that. And why not focus on something that works, right? Now, another thing that came up, which was interesting, was about cultivating their brand, right? And I think that is exciting, obviously. And they talked about the brand Tattoo Chef and what an open name that is, right? Because a lot of pure plays in the plant-based space is quite obvious, like Oatly, that's basically has to do with oat products, right? So they might be a little limited, even though I think they can actually do a lot with those names, all kinds of things, oat cheese, oat yogurt as they're doing. But I mean, basically, I think there's a lot of products they can still do. I mean, who knows? There are products out there that are meat alternatives that are based on oats. I don't think they will have to be limited, but I understand what they mean. And being a name like Tattoo Chef, that means that they can move in to whatever thing, that nothing will be limited there, right? But I didn't find it, I found it a little weird. I did understand, the comparison with Oatly, but I've been hearing talks about Beyond Meat then also being an issue. Like they wouldn't have the kind of advantage as Tattoo Chef has. And I found it a little lacking that discussion. Again, don't get me wrong, I love the team there, and I love Tattoo Chef, but I'm also a huge fan of Beyond Meat, as you know. And I think it was a simplified discussion, and maybe that's the point, right? Because you want to, pump up your brand, you want to give it some free commercial there. But I mean, just recently, Beyond Meat actually signaled that they're going to start making dairy alternatives maybe in the near-term future. And we talked about that with their PepsiCo deal too, because there's been talk that they might actually be doing some kind of plant-based drinkables, right? Which could that be? And then we found out now in August here from the Green Queen, and I've seen other sites mentioning that they are actually trying to get a trademark now for Beyond Milk. And I think Beyond Meat is part of it, right? But they can still, like Beyond Milk, there could be Beyond Cheese, or maybe just overall Beyond Dairy. So I don't think that's something that could be limited, because I think the Beyond trade in itself is a really popular brand out there, right? And they are much more well known than Tattooed Chef. So that doesn't take away the fact that Tattooed Chef is a great brand and has a great name, as we know. But I still want us to have a nuanced perspective there, right? But if we focus again then on the Tattooed Chef, like Matt talked about, which I found really interesting. What about the TAM possibilities, right? Well, we know from the very start, they've always been talking about this $63 billion US frozen food category, right? And currently they are in about 42 billion of that, which is frozen entries, frozen vegetables, frozen plant-based meat alternatives, and then frozen appetizers and snacks, and frozen breakfast food. And that's really great opportunities there, right? But what I find interesting is here, I've talked about this, the frozen section. I mean, it would be really interesting if they moved into that, because I think the possibilities there are enormous. Just recently, I'm going to come out with a video about that in a couple of days. It's going to be about Tattooed Chef as well, but it's going to have to do with this $162 billion possibility for the plant-based food market by 2030. I actually think it's bigger than that, way bigger, but we'll talk about that in another video, so stay tuned for that. But that being that dairy alternatives is going to be huge in that category. So frozen desserts is something I think would be perfect for the chef, right? I mean, they could have dairy alternatives there when it comes to ice creams, but frozen desserts as cheesecakes, right? I could really see them going into that, because we know there's a plant-based company now making fully vegan, fully gluten-free, raw cheesecakes, and they're quite unheard of as of yet. Nabati Foods. So I think Tattooed Chef, they could probably do, a real dent in that section. So that's something I would look forward to personally. But overall, what they were talking about is that the longer term opportunity here is the $380 billion frozen food market on an international scale, right? And that would be obviously super interesting. They did, though, mention, because that was first Stephanie that talked about that, then Matt kind of settled us down saying that, well, we're kind of several years from that, right? Right now we know, like my man Emmanuel mentioned on his video, that they have about 3 products in England where he's at, and that's about it in Europe. So they're focusing on the US, and that is still a huge opportunity that we can see them having, like growing and expanding a lot in the years ahead. And we see they're only at about 42 billion opportunity here right now. And as we said, it's 63 billion in total, which means, I mean, if they could only get about 1% of that, that's still 630 million in revenue just from the US with 1%. And I could definitely see them having higher, because couldn't they maybe reach about 10%? And what about, that would be 6.3 billion in revenue. What about 5%? It doesn't strike me as impossible, to be honest. And why is that? Well, what did Matt talk about? Well, Matt talked about that at Target, where we do know they're doing really well. I think they have about 17 products right now. They're going to have about 25 products here by the end of October or beginning of October. I wasn't certain there. but in October anyway. So 25 products. Now that is the mark of a great company, right? Because they're really big companies. And we also see here, when we take a look at the new one here, this is the idea, right? To filling up those frozen sections with their different products. We've heard about this before, right? That those really large companies like, let's say, Lean Cuisine, they would have maybe like 20, 30, 40, 50 different products, or even, and it doesn't have to be only frozen food then, of course, but that's the great ones. That's the companies that will really grow and last for generations, like a generational company. And already now, TTCF is still pretty small. They're already at 25 products, different SKUs, different products in Target. And Target's a big store. Then imagine what they'll have at Kroger's, right? Already I think there are about 12 products at Kroger's, right? In many of those stores. And then Walmart. The possibilities there seems endless to me. So I think that's really great news. So imagine just growing into that and what kind of growth opportunity they have. Because let's face it, they're barely begun, right? They're barely begun, and already they're looking at those kind of numbers. So could we see just in the US 5 to 10%? Well, if it was 5%, then that would mean still about $3 billion in revenue. And let's remember, guys, they're going to have about 240 million now in the end of this year. So we're talking about more than 10 times in the next maybe 5 to 10 years. Now that would be huge, of course. And I do believe that what they're doing now, the way they're expanding and already getting their products at so many big places, right? And as we know, what does that mean? When people start buying their products, I like this product. TTCF, I recognize that. Oh, there's 25 other products, right? I can actually see them growing super big here. And I think I'm far from the only person who believes that. But in the end, it doesn't have to be about only the frozen section that we're talking about and the possibilities here, or these 63 billion. With time, I do imagine that they will expand internationally more and more. We know, as Stephanie talked about, they already have a footprint, right? They already have a footprint in Europe with their facility in Italy. So that's when they get that going, I think they will expand quite quickly. But no rush, no rush. We have a couple of years ahead of us, right? And also, they talked about the 22 billion opportunity, the TAM opportunity in the healthy snacks section, which will apparently take a little longer than we thought, but still interesting. And then we have about 20 billion in the Hispanic food section, right? Which they seem to be doing really well with, considering that they're a plant-based burrito bowl. And I think they have some other, let's take a look at their chart line here. And we know they have some other Latin-inspired foods like the enchilada bowl, sofrito bowl. So I don't think it's going to be a long stretch for them to keep making products that are focused on the Mexican, Hispanic section of the industry. Which I've talked about in other videos that I do believe could be super large. All right, folks, that was it for today. I truly hope you got a lot of value from today's video. And if you did, make sure to smash that like button and help me out. And if you want to keep getting more information regarding this company, TTCF, or other plant-based companies like Beyond Meat, the Very Good Food Company, Oatly, to name a few, make sure to subscribe. And don't forget that bell button. Thank you, folks. I truly appreciate your help. And don't forget, this was not financial advice. These were just my own opinions, my thoughts. It's important that you do your own due diligence and invest safe. Folks, have a great Sunday. Hope to see you soon, and peace out.